your channel.
We're cooking with chocolate, making a dark chocolate ripple cheesecake. I need one of these. Kathy, you'd like to grate the orange, please?
It's a really good idea to prepare all your ingredients before you melt the chocolate, because once it's melted, chocolate is a sensitive creature and it's easy for things to go horribly wrong.
Other ingredients for this cheesecake are some brandy, a little bit of cream, some eggs, some cream cheese, and of course, we need some chocolate. I've gone for the dark chocolate. I've gone for the 70% cocoa solids.
Now my white chocolate, it's got about 30% cocoa solids.
First thing I notice is when you take it out the packet, it's got that lovely sheen.
All the little fat crystals on the surface, they reflect the light and make it shiny.
Listen. When you start to break it up, the chocolate starts to melt in your fingertips.
Chocolate melts just below body temperature. It's really special in that way, so it should melt to the touch.
Have a taste of that.
Melting in the mouth.
Chocolate. It's odd to think that until the middle of the 1840s, you couldn't eat it at all.
Chocolate has been a drink for many thousands of years. It was never ever eaten. One of the most critical points in the story of chocolate is really how it became chocolate as we know it today as a bar.
There's debate about who was the mastermind behind the first chocolate bar, but there's good evidence to suggest it was Joseph Stores Fry II from the British cocoa company Fry's, who in 1847 created the first chocolate for eating.
The first chocolate bar would probably have tasted quite grainy, probably quite soapy and probably quite gritty.
But it wasn't just the taste that put people off this first chocolate.
Chocolate was a relative luxury because there were high levels of duty on both cocoa and sugar, so it was really accessible mainly to the richer groups in society.
The big cocoa making firms knew their futures depended on making their chocolate widely available.
With Cadbury and with all the other British chocolate manufacturers, Fry's, Rowntree's, they were looking to expand their markets. Because of their skills as business people and also their principles, they wanted to make their products cheaper and more accessible. And through innovation, through quality, through finding out what the public wanted, they were able to give the public cheaper but still top quality goods.
The firms concentrated on developing their products. The priority was to make a palatable milk chocolate. Fry's continued to come up with new ideas, but it was Birmingham-based Cadbury's who were the first to hit the milk chocolate jackpot.
Cadbury's decided in the 1890s that they needed to think about producing a milk chocolate because they could see that Swiss milk chocolate was being imported into Britain in increasing quantities. This was clearly a threat to their position in the chocolate trade.
Alert to this, Cadbury's started to try and bring out their own rival to this milk chocolate, but the early attempts were very unsuccessful. And what George Cadbury did then was very interesting. He got together the chief chemist from Cadbury, one of the leading foremen, an engineer and a confectioner, plus himself, and what a team of talent was thereby assembled. And they grafted and they collared and they worked until they got what they felt was a supreme milk chocolate product.
But what to christen this new arrival?
They loved it in this one shop. And they said, what are you going to call it? Well, it could be Dairy Made, or it could be Jersey, or it could be Highland Milk. And the youngster, by all accounts, this is the story, said, well, I think Dairy Milk is a much daintier name. And thereby was born the name Cadbury's Dairy Milk.
It's become one of the most evocative and the best-selling products in the world of chocolate, even today.
The chocolate distinguished with a glass and a half of milk in every lovely half-pound.
Cadbury's Dairy Milk was a major boost to Cadbury, and it forced the company forward so that by the First World War it was ready to take on Fry's as the major British chocolate maker.
And it was after the First World War that the chocolate bar really became popular in Britain. At last, most of the population could afford to buy it.
It's achieved by a combination of factors. First of all, a marked fall in the price of raw materials, sugar and cocoa in particular. Secondly, in growing efficiency in transport and savings in transport. And thirdly, by continued improvements in productivity. In the 1920s, a 1.5 ounce bar of Cadbury Dairy Milk was selling for twopence. Within a few years, you could buy for twopence a 2 ounce bar.
Cadbury had merged with their main rival, Fry's, but there was more competition. Rowntree, famous for their cocoa and fruit pastilles, began to concentrate more on chocolate and employed a new marketing director.
George Harris, who'd married into the Rowntree family, had come into the firm, and he was very much responsible for pioneering the development of new products through consumer market research efforts.
But the chocolate boom couldn't survive World War II. While it was seen as a vital part of soldiers' provisions, for the general public this unnecessary luxury was rationed.
Both at Cadbury's and Rowntree's actually was turned over to wartime productions. In both companies, the people who worked in the laboratories were sent to work in armaments production and to get involved in government defence research.
It certainly could have been death to chocolate, but it wasn't.
Sweet rationing comes to a sticky end. Tots' mouths are watered a whole lifetime for this great day.
Now I'm melting the chocolate in a bain-marie, also known as a double boiler. Whatever name you want to call it, it's quite straightforward. All you need is a pan. Into the base of the pan you want a drop of water, not too much water. When you come to melt chocolate, the water shouldn't touch the base of the bowl. The steam is actually going to melt the chocolate very, very gently and gradually.
Chocolate contains cocoa powder, and that burns at only 60 degrees C, and the water in there is at 100 degrees C. So you really want to heat it up gradually so you don't get the burned, grainy cocoa powder. I started off with cream and chocolate in together before I started to heat. When you melt chocolate and you try to add liquid, you often end up with a seized up, horrible mass. Whereas if you start with a liquid inside, whether it's brandy or water or cream, the chocolate just gradually melts and it mixes in and you avoid all that trouble. And look, it's worked beautifully.
It does. Very well. You're very pleased with it, aren't you? Alternatively, you can heat your cream into a pan until it's nice and warm. Then you can just mix the two together, and that'll work as well.
Mine was faster.
Draw the blinds, please.